Well, how about that? I finally caved in and went for a 5070, out of literal desperation as I had no idea what else to get. Seems like the market is all over the place again, with new GPUs vertiginously coming down in price while used ones are paradoxically climbing. Case in point, this used Gigabyte RTX 5070 was just £10 cheaper at CX compared to brand new. And now you might be wondering, why in God's name would I go for a used GPU when there is really no discount to speak of? Well, the 5-year CX warranty of course. Once I got it, I did notice the SFF moniker written on the box. Small form factor, and it brought a smile to my face. I have no clue what exactly about this card is small. It's got 3 fans and it's longer than my old similarly proportioned RTX 2080 Ti top of the line GPU. Now that it's unboxed, it's time to have a look at the rest of the system. Starting off the X670 Prime motherboard and a brand new 7700. I love this Ryzen 7. Not because it is the best chip out there, far from it actually, but because it is a very interesting case of a Ryzen 7 priced at the same as a Ryzen 5. Why did AMD choose to do this? No idea, but as far as I can tell, it simply sits in a league of its own. There really isn't anything out there in touching distance of its value, with the possible exception of the i5 14600KF, but I would rather have AM5 any day as LGA 1700 is a dead platform. Next, we have a brand new kit of 32GB DDR5 6000 Mbps RGB that I use all over the place because it is well priced and it performs very well. Yeah, sure, there are faster kits out there, but none that can truly rival it when you take into account price versus performance. This is just my opinion of course, and you are free to disagree, but I will take this over a £10 more expensive non-RGB Crucial Pro kit any day. For storage, I've gone with a brand new NVMe 1TB SSD, the Western Digital Blue SN580, which I got for a great deal brand new. And finally, as this is a Wi-Fi capable motherboard, I've put back a Wi-Fi card that would fit the bill. I am not sure how this is a Wi-Fi board with an I/O shield without Wi-Fi holes, but I will defer to Asus on that. Now that the motherboard is all dressed, the next step is to plonk it all into this GameMax case we are using today. A very nice looking one if I may add. From here on it's going to get a bit different, mostly because we are doing a vertical GPU build with the help of this handy dandy adapter that I recently got from a friend. It is meant for this case, but I wagered that it is possible to put it in any case that does not have horizontal spacers at the back. Next, I am adding the CPU cooler, but as we shall see later on, I actually ended up using a Corsair Nautilus because this NZT, while it was performing very well, the RGB was stuck on red and I couldn't be asked to open it up and debug it. And finally, after the GPU goes in, this is the build. Have a look at the final result and tell me what you think. Yes, I would have liked the card to have RGB, but then again, is this the end of the world? No, not really. Before doing the proper benchmarks, I had a play with Heaven to understand how this card handles its thermal load, and even adding all the core voltage and raising the power limit, we've only got about 3.5% extra performance, which really isn't nothing, but it isn't something I will shout at the top of my lungs for. With a bit more tweaking, maybe using the curve tuner and also pushing memory a bit, I'm sure I can squeeze out another 5% performance, but the downside is that comes to 45 watt extra power consumption. Card though still stays very quiet, further lending credence that this whole SFF moniker is a bit of a joke. Speedway ran with 59 FPS, but more importantly I ran both Speedway and still no mass stability tests with the card manual overclocked, and in both instances it passed with very little run-to-run variation, signaling that the heat soak isn't really a concern here even with the increased power draw. Rocket League, as expected, ran with very high frame rate, staying mostly above 400 FPS, but even if the frame rate dipped it would be impossible to notice without a frame counter. In Fortnite we got a very respectable 118 FPS on average on the Rocket test track. It does have DLSS set to quality, the default option was TSR, but with an Nvidia GPU I feel it is slightly better, although TSR is really good in its own right. Regardless, with everything else notched all the way up, I still find this to be a very good result. Horizon Forbidden West with very aggressive settings and DLSS ran about as well as I expected it to, with around 100 FPS on average. I'm still very much looking forward to playing this game, and every time I boot it up I have to remind myself that all of this is done without any RT and it looks as good as anything else out there. Black Myth Wukong ran with a respectable 70 FPS on very high with medium RT and DLSS quality. This is a very RT heavy title that has a knack of bringing previous generation cards that are nominally more powerful than this 5070 to their knees. Of course, the reason the 5070 pulls ahead is the latest and greatest ray tracing cores present in the hardware. Assassin's Creed Shadows is unfortunately broken. Again, I've had this exact bug before and thought it was fixed, but it reared its ugly head again. No matter what I do, the GPU is stuck at around half its TDP. It does appear to be boosting and the usage is high, but the power consumption says otherwise. If I didn't know better, I would have blamed this on the CPU bottleneck, but last time I experienced this on a 5070 Ti with a 7800 X3D, I had to do a complete Windows reinstall and then it magically all worked fine. I don't particularly want to do that to my test drive right now, so that is out for now. Far Cry 6 on the other hand ran very well with 99 FPS on average and overall great frame times with a very respectable low of 81. Even though the car power consumption was again comparatively very low, I am rather confident that it is due to the non-X3D nature of the CPU slightly bottlenecking things. This can be totally alleviated by going to 4K though. Dragon Age is the poster child of good resource usage in this case, showing can leverage both the CPU and GPU optimally, resulting in very good performance in the most demanding scene I found in this game and staying mostly above 60 FPS with a few excursions to the high 50s. That might not sound impressive, but believe me, in this scene it is, and during normal gameplay the FPS hovers around 9, and that is of course on max settings. Indiana Jones using the recommended settings looks phenomenal and runs with over 60 FPS with tiny dips into the high 50s, which is excellent to see outside with GPUs that cost as much as or more as this whole build. We can even play around with the settings and further optimize, or even just go ahead and turn on frame generation. And finally, Cyberpunk 2077. And oh wait, those are 5090 settings. Never mind, DLA and path tracing aren't settings, they are flexes when your GPUs cost 2 grand or over. So how about some ridiculously high settings with DLSS on the new transfer mode? Well, say hello to 81 FPS on average, and if I may, I can't really tell the difference. I love this game, but specifically spent ages looking at reflections to find the difference, and well, have a look for yourself and choose which image you find better. I'll wait. One instance is running at 80 FPS and the other at 24 FPS. And if you said, right, it's path trace because it looks clearer and sharper, you are dead wrong. This is not me saying path tracing is bad or useless, it's clearly not. It is a technology that has a lot of merit, but is it so much better over regular RT? Well, no, not really. And with that, that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it and see you in the next one.